Imagine, just for a second, that you have the mind of a master strategic analyst.
Hmm.
Like, you are someone who deeply, on a cellular level, just craves absolute stability.
Right. Total order.
Exactly. Order and this unshakable truth. You basically want the world to make logical sense, and you want to build a foundation that will last for generations.
But the universe, it has a completely different plan for you.
Yeah, totally different. Instead of this quiet, predictable life where you can just, carefully stack your bricks one by one, you are constantly forced into a literal tornado of chaos.
Just relentless change.
Relentless. You're subjected to rapid shifts, unpredictable environments, and the sudden total uprooting of everything you thought was permanent. You want a concrete fortress, but the universe keeps handing you a surfboard and, pointing you toward a tsunami.
It is arguably the ultimate psychological paradox.
Right.
You are essentially this creature of structure, someone whose inner emotional compass demands predictability, but you're being forced to live in a state of perpetual freefall. The mental gymnastics required just to get out of bed in the morning under those conditions, it would be staggering.
It would be exhausting. Just the sheer bandwidth it would take to manage that friction on a daily basis. And that tension, that incredible internal war, is actually the starting point for our deep dive today.
And it's a fascinating one.
It really is. So today, we are looking at a highly specific, deeply audited numerological and psychological blueprint of a man named Ibrahim. We are going to trace this massive 26-year personal transition.
From the incubator phase right through to the metamorphosis.
Exactly. We'll look at this silent incubator of his early life and then that explosive shift that completely rewrote his reality. But in accordance with our specific focus today, we are going to dive incredibly deeply into how this internal blueprint manifests in his most private, intimate world.
Which is where things get truly complex.
Oh, absolutely mind-blowing. We're exploring his highly unconventional, profoundly intricate relationship architecture. We're specifically looking at how he utilizes polyamory and same-sex connections to fulfill what this framework suggests is his ultimate destiny.
It really is a fascinating psychological case study. What makes this deep dive so compelling, I think, is how it bridges esoteric numerology. Specifically, the Pythagorean calculations of a birth date and a name with highly practical modern human psychology.
Right, like neuroplasticity and relationship systems.
Exactly. We aren't just looking at mystical numbers floating in a vacuum here. We are examining how these conceptual numerical vibrations actually translate into literal emotional needs, sexual dynamics, and eventually this drive for massive global ambition.
Okay, let's unpack this, because before we can even begin to understand where Ibrahim is going or, how his private life operates today, we have to understand how the engine was originally built.
We have to look at the foundational code.
Yeah, the first 26 years of his life. So I want you to think about your own life for a second. Think about the person you are at a crowded holiday party, right? You're making small talk, navigating the social dynamics.
Wearing the mask.
Wearing the mask, yeah. Now think about the person you are when you are completely alone at 2 a.m., stressed out, trying to solve a massive personal problem. Those two versions of you might be entirely different people.
Night and day.
Right. Well, Ibrahim's original blueprint takes that concept of the social mask and turns it into, a high-tech psychological espionage operation.
That is a very, very accurate way to frame the complexity of his early life. To understand this original engine, we have to look at the foundational data. So his birth date, September 3rd, 2000, and his original birth name, Ibrahim Otieno Odiambo.
Okay.
This specific configuration, it acted as his psychological incubator for 26 years. And the entire system starts with the one piece of the blueprint that is entirely unchangeable.
His life path number.
Yeah.
Right, which, based on that specific birth date of September 3rd, 2000, calculates out to a 5. Now, I want to spend some real time here because this isn't just a minor personality quirk, is it?
No, not at all.
The framework suggests that the life path is essentially the highway of your evolution. It is the unchangeable road you are driving on.
Yeah, exactly. If you imagine your life as a journey, the life path number dictates the terrain. It dictates the weather conditions, the types of events and opportunities you will inevitably encounter on that road.
It's the macro environment.
Precisely. It is the macro environment. And a life path 5 is the ultimate paradigm of change. In almost every esoteric tradition, the number 5 sits right in the middle of the 1 through 9 spectrum.
Right, it's the pivot.
It is the fulcrum, the pivot point. So for Ibrahim, having a life path 5 means his macro environment is mathematically designed to never be static. It will never be predictable, or routine.
So what does that actually look like for a person on a random Tuesday? Like, does it just mean they like to travel a lot?
Oh, it goes much deeper than just enjoying a vacation. The 5 energy forces massive life pivots. It manifests as, frequent geographic relocations, sudden shifts in core philosophy, constant exposure to wildly diverse cultures.
So they can't just sit still.
Right. A person on a life path 5 might build a career in finance for 5 years, only to wake up one morning with this visceral, undeniable urge to abandon it all and, study regenerative agriculture in South America.
Wow.
The environment around them will constantly shift, forcing them to adapt.
Yeah.
If you try to place a Life Path 5 into a highly regimented, stagnant, 30-year corporate cubicle job, their nervous system will essentially begin to short-circuit.
They lose their minds.
They need the friction of new experiences to feel alive.
So this blueprint suggests he is a natural agent of change. Wherever he goes, his mere presence tends to shake up stagnant energies.
Absolutely.
He is the person who walks into a room, looks at a tradition that has been in place for 50 years, and says, why are we still doing it this way? This doesn't make sense anymore.
Yeah, he challenges the status quo by default.
And he learns by doing, right. Not by reading about it in a textbook, but through direct, unfiltered, sometimes really painful trial and error.
Which is an incredibly dynamic, exciting way to live. I mean, if that was the only number in his chart, he would just be a freewheeling adventurer. But here's where we add the next layer, which completely complicates the picture.
Okay, lay it on me.
We have to look at his expression number, which is sometimes called the destiny number. This is derived from the numerical values of all the letters in his original full name, Ibrahim Otieno Otiambo. And this calculates to a 7.
Okay, so if the life path is the highway he is driving on, the expression number is the actual vehicle he's driving, right?
Yep.
It's the cognitive hardware he uses to process the world.
Precisely. It is his toolkit. And the 7 is the toolkit of the deep, isolated thinker.
Oh, wow.
It is the archetype of the seeker, the philosopher, the investigator.
The hyper-analytical mind.
Yeah.
Because the framework describes this 7 energy as an exceptionally piercing, almost scientific intellect.
Yes, highly analytical.
This is not a mind that takes anything at face value. If you tell him the sky is blue, the 7 mind doesn't just nod and agree. It immediately starts researching atmospheric optics and Rayleigh scattering to understand the exact mechanics of why the sky appears blue.
Exactly. He spots systemic flaws. He reads the hidden psychological motives of the people around him, motives that everyone else just walks right past.
So he's constantly analyzing everything.
What's fascinating here is the immediate operational conflict this creates. The 7 mind requires an immense amount of solitude. It bridges deep logic with profound spiritual intuition, sure, but because it is constantly absorbing and analyzing such a staggering amount of data from the environment, it needs quiet.
It needs to cool down.
Right, it needs isolated space to process it all. So already, at just the second layer of his blueprint, we have massive friction.
I can see that.
The Life Path 5 demands that he be out in the world, taking risks, experiencing the chaos, bouncing from one environment to the next. But his Expression 7 cognitive hardware wants him to sit alone in a quiet, dimly lit room for hours, meticulously analyzing the data he just collected.
It's literally like having a Formula One race car that's the Life Path 5, demanding speed and danger. But the onboard computer, the 7, keeps slamming on the emergency brakes.
Yes.
Because it wants to pull over and calculate the exact coefficient of friction on the asphalt before taking the next turn.
That is exactly the dynamic. But we have to go deeper. We have to look into the emotional core. This brings us to his soul urge number.
Which is derived from the vowels in his original name.
Right. The soul urge is the hidden craving. It is the internal emotional compass that dictates what a person truly needs to feel safe and fulfilled, regardless of what their intellect or their environment is actually doing. And for his original name, the soul urge is a 4.
And this is where the tension becomes almost agonizing.
Yeah.
Because the soul urge 4 is the absolute antithesis of a life path 5.
It really is. It is the craving for extreme order, tangible stability, and absolute foundational honesty. The 4 is the archetype of the builder, the architect.
The guy who wants the white picket fence.
Basically, yes. His soul literally demands a solid, unshakable home base. He respects discipline. He reveres loyalty. He wants to know that the foundations of his life, his relationships, his financial structures, his core beliefs are made of concrete. He wants a life that can be mapped out on a spreadsheet.
Okay, so let's synthesize this absolute nightmare of an internal reality, because it sounds exhausting.
It is.
His soul urge 4 desperately wants to build a concrete bunker of safety. His Expression 7 brain acts as a supercomputer, meticulously analyzing the structural integrity of every single brick he uses to build that bunker.
Right.
But his Life Path 5 is a Category 5 hurricane that keeps picking up the bunker and throwing it 3 states over, forcing him to start all over again.
It is a recipe for profound internal exhaustion. The soul demands rigid stability. The mind demands perfect understanding. But the life path simply dictates fluid, chaotic movement.
How does someone survive that?
The psychological toll of constantly trying to impose 4-level order onto a 5-level reality would be staggering. He would likely spend years feeling like he was constantly just bracing for an impact.
So if you are Ibrahim, living with this internal war zone, how do you even function in society? How do you go to the grocery store or attend a networking event when your soul is terrified, your brain is overanalyzing everything, and your life keeps shifting?
That brings us to the fourth piece.
His personality number.
Yes, derived from the consonants in his name. This is the outer energetic armor. It is the mask he wears. And for 26 years, it was a 3.
Okay, so what does the 3 do?
The 3 energy is incredibly potent as a social shield. It projects a highly engaging, witty, and magnetic exterior. When people interact with a personality 3, they see someone who is expressive, charming, socially adept, and usually equipped with a razor-sharp, disarming sense of humor.
I love this. It makes me think of a highly successful stand-up comedian who is, in his private life, a deeply introverted quantum physicist.
Ooh, I like that. Expand on that. Why a comedian and a physicist?
Well, because think about what a stand-up comedian actually does. The public, the audience sitting in the dark, they just see the charming personality 3. The comedian is up on stage, the spotlight is on him, he's magnetic, he's making everyone laugh.
He seems effortless.
Exactly. He seems totally relaxed and in control. But behind the scenes, behind that witty social mask, his Expression 7 supercomputer is working in absolute overdrive.
Reading the room.
Yes. He is secretly analyzing the acoustic bounce of the room. He's reading the micro-expressions of the guy in the front row. He is calculating the exact millisecond timing required for the punchline to hit perfectly.
He's running the math.
Right. He isn't actually relaxed at all. He is executing a highly technical operation. And he is doing all of this to feed data to his soul urge 4, trying to build a stable, predictable, lucrative career so his soul can finally feel safe.
While the 5 keeps moving him.
Exactly, all while his Life Path 5 keeps throwing him onto a moving train to perform in a different, chaotic city every single night.
That is a phenomenal breakdown of how these 4 numbers interact. I mean, it perfectly highlights the functional utility of the mask. The 3 personality acts as an impenetrable shield of charm.
You can't get past it.
No. He uses that wit to keep everyone at arm's length. If he can keep you laughing, you will never get close enough to see the deep anxiety of his Soul Urge 4 or the intense hyper-private isolation of his Expression 7. He manages the threat of the outside world by essentially entertaining it.
But there have to be massive downsides to living like that. You can't just run that much internal friction for 26 years without the engine starting to smoke.
Exactly. When you have this specific, highly contradictory configuration, the psychological risks are severe. First, you have the risk of paralysis by analysis.
Right, the 7 taking over.
The 7 minds, desperately trying to help the 4 soul achieve safety in a chaotic 5 world, will try to calculate every possible variable before making a move. But because the 5 world is inherently unpredictable, the math never solves.
It's an impossible equation.
Yes. This can lead to total inertia, where he pulls away from the world entirely, trapped in his own head.
Or the opposite could happen, right? The 5 energy could just take over completely and induce severe mental restlessness, like a sheer terror of being boxed in.
Yes, leading to scattered energies.
Yeah.
Abandoning projects prematurely because the 4 soul feels the foundation isn't perfect, or using the 3 charm to manipulate situations just to maintain a superficial sense of control.
Wow.
The 4, when faced with the relentless chaos of the 5, can become internally rigid, almost tyrannical, obsessed with micromanaging tiny, insignificant variables simply because it cannot control the macro environment.
And this was his life. For 26 years, he lived in this quiet, introspective push-pull state. The framework suggests that to the outside world, people just saw this charming, funny, slightly enigmatic guy.
He had no idea.
They had no idea the architectural calculations happening behind his eyes. He was quietly building a foundation, aggregating data, learning how the world worked through pure observation and trial and error. He was building in the dark.
A foundation that nobody else could see, but one that was absolutely necessary to survive that internal friction. He had to develop an incredibly high tolerance for complexity.
Right.
But then, We hit the inflection point of this entire analysis. After 26 years of incubation, a massive structural shift occurs. He changes his name.
Okay, here we go.
He transitions from Ibrahim Otieno Odiambo to Ibrahim Mukunzi Odiambo, and this completely rewrites the engine.
Okay, stop right there. I have to push back on this premise because this is where my logical brain just hits a brick wall.
I expected this.
I mean, I understand psychology, I understand the power of habit, but you are telling me that taking a few letters out of a middle name and adding some different letters fundamentally rewrites 26 years of deeply entrenched psychological hardwiring.
It sounds a bit esoteric.
It sounds like magical thinking. If I go down to the courthouse tomorrow and legally change my name to Albert Einstein, I don't suddenly wake up the next morning understanding the theory of relativity. How does this actually work mechanically?
That is the exact right question to ask. And you're right, if we view this purely as mystical letters floating in the ether, it completely falls apart. We have to look at the psychology of identity, neuroplasticity, and something called nominative determinism.
Nominative determinism.
Yes. When a person adopts a new name, especially an adult who intentionally chooses a new label for themselves, it is not just a clerical update on a driver's license. It is a profound act of psychological rebranding.
Okay, I'm listening. Walk me through the actual mechanism.
Think about how deeply tied your identity is to the sound of your name. It is the primary auditory anchor for your entire sense of self. Every time someone speaks to you, they use that anchor.
Right.
When Ibrahim changes his name to Mkunzi, he is drawing a definitive line in the psychological sand. He is declaring, to himself and to the world, a new paradigm of existence. It acts as a continuous behavioral prompt.
Like a trigger.
Exactly. Every time he introduces himself, every time he signs a document, every time a partner whispers his new name, it triggers a neurological reminder of the new traits he is embodying.
Oh.
Over time, this shifts neuroplasticity.
So his brain literally wires itself differently.
Yes. He begins to make choices aligned with the new identity, which creates new neural pathways, which then reinforces the new behavior. It is a self-fulfilling psychological loop anchored by the framework of the numbers. The numbers provide the architectural blueprint for the new identity he is consciously stepping into.
So it's not that the letters have magic powers. It's that the new name provides a highly specific, mathematically structured psychological framework for him to reinvent himself.
Exactly.
It's almost like a behavioral placebo effect that becomes reality through sheer repetition.
Right, precisely. It is a conscious reprogramming of the self.
Right.
So let's look at what he actually reprogrammed. Let's break down the mechanics of the new Ibrahim Mukunzi Odiambo.
Let's do it.
As we established, the life path number remains a 5. The birth date cannot change. The highway of his life, the inherent need for freedom, variety, and unconventional paths remains his constant reality.
Right, he's still on that chaotic highway.
But the vehicle he is driving changes drastically. His expression number, his cognitive toolkit and destiny shifts from that introspective, over-analytical 7 to a 5.
Oh, wow, creating a double 5 alignment, life path 5, expression 5.
Yes, and the double 5 acts as an extreme psychological accelerator. The introverted, analytical push-pull of the 7 is entirely gone. He is no longer fighting the chaotic highway. His vehicle is now custom built for it.
He traded the Prius for a race car.
He is no longer the Formula One car pulling the emergency brake. He has removed the brake entirely.
That's wild, because the framework describes this double 5 combination as a money magnet alignment. It enhances dynamic business sense, aggressive networking, and rapid, instinctual decision-making.
He doesn't overthink anymore.
Right. He doesn't need to sit in a dark room and analyze the data for a week. He just trusts his gut. He transitions into this dynamic explorer, moving through the world with extraordinary range and boldness, completely free of the previous friction. He is stepping on the gas.
But the vehicle isn't the only thing that changed. The engine's core drive. The soul urge shifts from the anxious stability craving 4 to an 8.
Or 4 to 8.
And this is a monumental upgrade in raw ambition.
Let's unpack the 8. What does that actually mean for him?
Well, the Soul Urge 4 was the worker mindset. It just wanted to build a safe little house and hide from the storm. The Soul Urge 8 is the executive mindset. He no longer wants to hide from the chaos. He wants to dominate it, organize it, and monetize it.
Wow, that's a huge shift.
The 8 energy craves massive structural power, elevated social status, absolute material mastery, and the ability to build a sprawling legacy, whether that's a corporate empire, a vast family dynasty, or significant generational wealth. It is the unyielding drive for large-scale global impact.
Okay, so we have a guy who is driving a double five sports car at 200 miles an hour, fueled by the ruthless executive ambition of a Solarge 8. But wait, this brings up another massive
I
contradiction.
sense the pushback.
I need to push back again, yes. Let's look at his new personality number, the outer mask, how he interacts with the world. It shifts from the witty, detached 3 to a 6, and the framework explicitly calls the 6 the magnetic guardian.
Yes, it does.
But the 6 is the archetype of the mother, the father, the ultimate domestic caregiver. It is an image of profound nurturing, deep responsibility, community harmony, and being the ultimate provider and protector of a big family.
Sure.
How in the world does a grounded, deeply responsible, community-focused 6 reconcile with a chaotic, boundary-breaking, highly independent, double 5 energy that demands total, unrestricted freedom? That sounds like he just traded one form of internal friction for another. You can't be a free-roaming nomad and the father of a massive community at the same time.
This is a brilliant observation, and it really points to the sophisticated maturity of this new blueprint. You are right. On the surface, it looked like a glaring contradiction, but it's actually a synthesis.
Okay, how?
The 6 energy doesn't cancel out the double 5. It gives it a grounded external purpose.
Explain that. How does it give it purpose?
Before, with his original blueprint, his exploration might have felt scattered. He was just absorbing data to survive. Now, as a double 5 with the personality 6 mask, he is no longer exploring the world purely for the thrill of the ride.
He has an objective.
Exactly. He is exploring to aggregate massive resources, cutting-edge knowledge, and systemic power driven by that soul urge 8 in order to protect, nurture, and lead a vast, chosen community.
Oh, I see.
The 6 acts as a stable, loving container for the 5's massive, chaotic energy. He becomes a trusted paternal authority figure who uses his worldly, highly unconventional experience to guide and guard others. The freedom isn't for escaping anymore. The freedom is for gathering what his community needs.